navigation into the 3D view. Before start everything into this 3D view, we will have a look on something I did prepare for you. So you will find this into the folder of the source files, and you will have Blender 2.7 shortcuts. So here I did prepare you some general shortcuts. I will not put everything inside it because it will be a big list that it will be difficult to find things inside. I just did 2 pages. If you want, it's good to print it, and after to put it not far of your screen like this, you really during the process of learning you really can focus on that and have a look sometimes if you don't remember a shortcut. It's my way of doing it, but you can find several things that are totally different. Some people already try some visual Blender hotkeys that can be interesting to download and print too. Here we have Blender shortcuts infographic, so it's a little different too, but it shows well when you know a little Blender how it works. I think there's ways of doing things that are very good when you know a little Blender already. If you are really a beginner, I don't recommend you to use this directly. Use something as a list. That will be simpler. Or just print this too. Like you can see directly the keyboard on it. So you have all of these options. You can just Google it and you will find it very easily into Blender. Just remember that the Blender version that we use is 2.79, okay? So the shortcuts are good for 2.7 versions. And so what we will do, we want to navigate into our 3D view. First of all, we will use the middle button on the mouse, and the middle button will help us to turn around the scene like that. Okay, we will have a 3D navigation. When you want to zoom into an object or into your view, you use the scroll button or the control middle click button. Okay, so this is it for middle button. Middle button, I turn around. Scroll, I zoom in, zoom out. Control middle button, I zoom in, zoom out. Okay, but with smooth interpolation. And shift middle button, I move from right to left or top and bottom. Okay, like the hand tool into Photoshop, for example. So this is it to turn around our object. But if we want to have, for example, some constraint views, we can use and start to use a numpad, and the numpad is very important for navigation in Blender, and you will see this because it's really the basic of understanding navigation into Blender. First of all, we have 3 important ones. The numpad 1, that is the front view. Okay, numpad 3, that is right view, and numpad 7, that is top view. I will delete this cube with X, okay, and I will add another object, mesh monkey. Add mesh monkey, and here it will be easier to represent what I am doing. So here I have my front view with Suzanne, okay, here my side view with 3, and with 7 my top view. Better. Now if I want to invert these views, I will just use control with the same numbers. Control 1, it's inverted view, so it's from back, and control 7, it's bottom. Control 3, it's not right, it's left. Okay, so with only these 3 buttons here, 1, 3 and 7, you can control everything. Now, if I want to turn around my object with keys only, but not with my middle button, like I do now, I can use the 2, 6, 4, and 8, and you really use it as arrows. So 6, you turn right, 4, you turn left, okay, 8, you turn to the top, and 2, you turn to the bottom, okay. So it's a good option to navigate to. So 1, 3, 7, okay, to manage constrained views, and then use the 2, the 4, the 8, and the 6 to manage your scene like that, okay. So can be good to use this into Blender, especially the 1, 3, 7, that it's really important. I really recommend you to not forget these shortcuts. We will have a lot of shortcuts to learn into Blender, but I mean, these ones are really important, and it's really the foundation of everything after. If you don't want to watch your screen with little eyes and angry face and tells where I am in the view, I don't find. Okay, use that shortcuts. It will help you a lot. One that is really important too is the numpad period. So, for example, let's say I have several objects, not only one in my scene, and I will just duplicate this object like that, and just move and left click to have several objects like that, okay. And let's say I have 4 Susans. Now here in my scene I have Susan 1, 2, and 3. Okay, good. But if I navigate in my 3D viewer, I'm still locked into Susan here. And me, I would like, for example, to focus on Susan here, Susan 2, and Susan 2, and just to be focused and turn around. So what I do, I use numpad period. I select my object that I want to focus on, and I use numpad period. Numpad period will help me to focus on a selection. It can be one object, okay, one mesh like this, but it will work for the camera. Everything that you can select into your scene will work. So I select my camera, I turn around. I select my lamp, I turn around. What is good with these options too is that you don't really have to have this in your scene. For example, if you view in your view, for example, if I look here, that is totally gray, I did lose everything. Where I am, I don't know. I select Suzanne here, left click, I go back into my 3D view, numpad, and I'm focused on it. So it's really interesting to use. I select something, focus, I zoom out a little, and everything is good. So into my scene like that, to navigate into my scene. So it will really help you to work with that. And it can work with a multiple selection. For example, with shift right click, okay, I can do a multiple selection, and then I can do still a numpad here. Okay, let's talk about right click and the left click button into Blender. The right click helps you to select objects, like I said, and yeah, it's a way of doing things. It can be a little confusing in the beginning for beginners, because everything into softwares, you really have the habit to select everything with a left button mouse. Now it's a right middle mouse, so it can be a little confusing. I will show you after how to manage that if you really want to not use this. But Blender were built with this, and everything around is quite well organized with this system. So if you can make yourself use of that, it can really be good. Right click, selection. Left click, it moves here the little cursor here. Okay, this cursor is not really an object, it's just something that will not appear in your scene when you do a render, but just something that you can use as a pivot point, for example. Or just if you move your 3D cursor here and you add an object, okay, let's say I add this time a cylinder, it will appear here, okay? So I remove it. To put back my 3D cursor in the center, I just use Shift C. Shift C will makes you an overview of all the scene. So if you have 3 objects, Blender will show you everything, and put back your cursor into the center of the view. Then if you want really to remove this option of right selection, it can be understandable. You go to File, User Preferences, and then you go to Input. Input here you will have Select With left or right. Then you do Save User Settings, and next time you will open Blender, it will work like that. So it can be good for some users that are really used on this, and I really can understand that. No problem with this. And it will not really change what you will learn into this training, these complete training sessions. But it's just way of doing things. Here we have user persp. You can see that if I'm in front view, it tells me front persp, and here right persp. And okay, I have front, user, top, okay, and everything, or camera view with 0. 0 is camera view, okay. But what is it? This persp here. This persp is perspective. And what is perspective? It's how we see in everyday life. We have perspective everywhere. If you watch a road or anything, you will have perspective. It's just that if you see straight lines that are parallel, you just watch it and it's not parallel. It comes to one point that is somewhere here, I don't know. And so this is perspective. I guess that you know a little what is it already. But if you don't want this perspective appears for some reasons, you just use the 5 numpad button here, and it will come to user auto. Auto is orthographic. It means that no more perspective and everything is straight and parallel. Now if you watch it, for example, a good example of it is if I want to model this part of Susan, for example. So okay, I go on the right here with my 3 numpad, I do a period here, and I have my Susan. And if I zoom in, you see there is no deformation into the hair of Susan. And so it's not really a problem after to model precisely things into Blender when you have this orthographic view. But if you use perspective view, you really see what I talk about. You have a really big deformation here, and it doesn't really show reality of things. So I really recommend you for modeling to model into orthographic views, even if it can be a little different. And after, to appreciate maybe the result when it's finished, just come back to perspective view with numpad 5, and it will show you something more real. Into camera mode, by default, if you go to numpad 0, you will have anyway a perspective view by default. You can change this, but it will work with like a real camera. When you are in perspective view, so you use here in the properties here, okay, you have the view option, and the lens by default is 35. Okay, so it's like the camera here, it's a focal length, so you just have focal length millimeters here into the 3D view. You can change this and it will zoom in and zoom out. Okay, if you zoom out, for example, and go to lens 10, so you will have something like this, but you will see a lot of deformation into it. And if you put, for example, 80, you will have less deformation, okay, when you zoom in. But anyway, keep this value as 35. It's good like this by default. But if you really want to remove this deformation, use user orthographic view, and it will work after during all of this view. So this is it for the navigation into Blender. Don't hesitate to play with this, add objects, focus on object, turn around, make exercises, and we will see Blender configuration in the next video.